Hello, I'm Senator Maggie Hassan.
Hi, everyone. This is Governor Chris Sununu.
Thank you for the invitation to join you today for the Campaign for Legal Services annual breakfast.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank you all for the incredible work that you do, especially in these last few months.
The work of the campaign in 2020 is needed at this time in a way we have not seen before.
This pandemic is exacerbating the challenges that vulnerable Granite Staters experience, including the ability to access food, shelter, and health care, and to be free from domestic abuse. And through those challenges, the Campaign for Legal Services has been there for Granite Staters. Your work provides support and protection for those who need it, and it empowers them. You are helping change lives during this pandemic and beyond it.
The work of New Hampshire Legal Assistance and the Legal Advice and Referral Center was critical during the Great Recession, and we look to you once again to meet increased demands during the economic recovery from this pandemic over the coming month and years. I know you're already experiencing an influx of cases related to unemployment, eviction, and domestic violence, and I'm so grateful and proud of the important work that you do every day.
I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, Judge Fern Fisher of Hofstra University. I'd also like to congratulate the 2020 John Tobin Justice Award winner, Judge Susan Carbon. I was proud to confirm Judge Carbon as an executive counselor, and I thank her for dedicating her career to the children and families of New Hampshire. Equal justice for all. That is the mission of the Campaign for Legal Services. And New Hampshire is a better, fairer, and more equitable place because of your work and your dedication.
We've faced challenges, no doubt, but each of you has been there every step along the way to ensure that Granite Staters can access the resources that we've made available. You've been on the front lines of helping to keep Granite Staters housed, assisting New Hampshire nonprofits access relief funds, so much more. We can't thank each of you enough for the incredible work that you do.
I look forward to our continuing efforts to ensure that New Hampshire is the very best place for everyone to live, work, and raise a family.
So thank you all for the work you do to make New Hampshire a better place.
Thank you again.
Be safe and be well.
Good morning. My name is Ovid Lamontagne. I'm a shareholder with Bernstein Shore, and I'm honored to chair the 2020 New Hampshire Campaign for Legal Services. Thank you, Governor Sununu, Senator Hassan, Representative Custer, and Representative Pappas for your messages of support. And thank you online, we are live, for joining me today for our annual breakfast, supporting New Hampshire Legal Assistance and the new Legal Advice and Referral Center. I promise that this morning's program, some of it live and some of it pre-recorded, will conclude no later than 9 a.m. So I hope you'll be able to remain with us for the entire program. Each spring for the past 10 years, we have gathered in person to celebrate the great impact legal aid makes in our state and to kick off the annual fundraising work of this campaign. Our breakfast has been a wonderful tradition, a chance for attorneys, judges, legislators, and business leaders from around the state to gather and recognize the work NHLA and LARC do every year to protect one of our most fundamental American values, that everyone is equal before the law. We can't be together in person this year, but I know I speak for my colleagues and friends in the campaign's Leadership Council and the staff and boards of directors of NHLA and LARC when I say we are deeply grateful that you have joined us for this unique event. We are all in this pandemic together, but we're not in it equally. Legal aid advocates serve as essential workers on the front line, sounding the alarm that a housing crisis is imminent, disproportionately threatening the health, safety, and financial stability of low-income people, particularly low-income people of color. Low-income people of all racial identities often lack the resources to maintain their financial stability through a major illness or job loss. But for some, in the face of this pandemic, both strike at once. The guiding mission of the campaign is this idea. Our justice system, our system, is supposed to be a level playing field where the rule of law is applied equally to all. But if only half the people in a courtroom know the rules, the playing field is far from level. Legal aid advocates put their knowledge of the rules to work for the people who need them the most vulnerable. And that population is growing as I speak and as we gather today. Women trapped with an abusive partner, students with disabilities who still have a right to an equal education, older adults vulnerable to neglect, and consumers confronted with scams or unexpected debt. Many will be families who have never applied for welfare before, but who now need help accessing food stamps or unemployment insurance. A tidal wave of homelessness is building in our state. While the Centers for Disease Control have placed a temporary moratorium on evictions, mounting debt puts tenants at risk of eviction when it expires. NHLA and LARC have creatively expanded their capacity to serve this growing need. Using emergency funding from the Legal Services Corporation, LARC hired a new staff attorney early in the pandemic, specifically to address housing and unemployment cases. And through a unique public-private collaborative, NHLA has put federal funding from the state nonprofit emergency relief fund to use borrowing attorneys from three of New Hampshire's largest law firms, McLean Middleton, Sheehan Finney Bass and Green, and Rath Young and Pignatelli. However, these funding sources are not permanent. We know that. And we know that the crisis will reverberate into the next year and likely beyond for the people who live in the margins of our society. When legal aid helps a family protect their basic living needs, the right to put food on the table, a roof over their head, and be safe from domestic abuse, that benefits us all. And that's why we're here today. For the past 10 years, this event has been the campaign's largest single fundraiser to support legal aid. Thank you to our sponsors, some of whom have pledged their support for this event many months ago, including Northeast Delta Dental, Cross Insurance, and the law firms of Nixon Peabody, Sheehan Finney Bass and Green, Bernstein Shore, McLean Middleton, Pretty Flaherty, and many more. Your support has been an invaluable ballast as the campaign navigates this stormy year. However, gifts from individuals still remain the backbone of support for legal aid in New Hampshire. Last year, more than 460 individuals donated to support equal access to justice. Gifts range from $10 to $5,000, but every gift helps. And today, every gift will help twice as much. And that is because a group of community leaders have set a challenge for us to kick off today. They will match your support today, dollar for dollar, up to $20,000. Thank you, Senator Martha Fuller Clark and Dr. Jeffrey Clark, Jamie Burnett and Don McKinney, Bill Chapman, John Funk, Doug Hill, Alexandra Breed, and Jim and Margie Kerouac for helping us aim high as we head into the last quarter of a truly unprecedented year. To help us reach this goal today with that match, you can text the pledge to give as we have done at the breakfast for several years now. Open a new text message, and in the place that you address it, type 56512. That's 56512. In the message, type kickoff, one word, then a space, then your pledge amount, then a space, then your name. You can also call your pledge into the campaign's office at 603-224-4107. That's 224-4107. And you'll see the thermometer should be showing up on our screens shortly. It'll give you a sense of who's contributing and how much we've been able to raise. We'll give you the guide again throughout the hour, so you have plenty of chances to give. And I hope you'll hear plenty of reasons to give generously this morning. And afterwards, if you're listening to this in a recorded broadcast, and help us reach this ambitious goal. I need to say a very special thank you to a group of supporters who have made their support for legal aid a priority in their community philanthropy every year for more than a decade. Our pacesetter law firms make a charitable gift to legal aid of $500 per attorney. In 2019, we had 3 pacesetter firms, Ansel and Anderson in Bedford, and Orrin Reno and Gallagher, Callahan, and Gartrell in Concord. 3 firms of very different sizes who nonetheless made the same commitment to ensure that all people in New Hampshire have equal access to justice. As Lisa Snow Wade, past president of the Orrin Reno firm, said in 2019 in our annual report, quote, "For our society to have confidence in our court system Everyone has to have confidence that it's fair. So many people who try to participate in the legal system with lawyers come away thinking the legal system is broken, rather than they just didn't have representation, unquote. If you would like to join our pace setters this year with a gift to legal aid to increase society's faith in the fairness of our justice system, here again are the ways you can do that. You can also call your pledge into the campaign's office at 224-4107. Protecting our society's faith in the justice system is crucially important, but that's not all legal aid does. Over the past few years, the business community has realized the value legal aid contributes to New Hampshire's economy. The stability for an employee who doesn't become homeless, the safety of an employee who can leave an abuser, the future of a child given access to health care and education all help the business community as well. One business in particular has led the way, Northeast Delta Dental. And here to tell us why is CEO Tom Raffio.
Thank you, Ovid. Good morning. Northeast Delta Dental supports the joint mission and vision of New Hampshire Legal Aid and the Legal Advice and Referral Center because the availability of civil legal aid for low-income people helps make our state and communities stronger and more stable. If you represent a business that has not made giving to the New Hampshire Campaign for Legal Services a priority, I encourage you to join New Hampshire attorneys and business leaders who recognize the importance of making the rule of law equally available to everyone by supporting these fundraising efforts. We need a strong, comprehensive support system now more than ever. At Northeast Delta Dental, we believe that everyone deserves a healthy smile. We are thoughtful and deliberate about making marketing and charitable decisions that increase access to dental care to more New Hampshire citizens. One of the reasons we support New Hampshire Legal Aid is because they do such an exemplary job of increasing the ability of low-income families relying on Medicaid to secure dental care for their children. Their work over a 2-year period led to a wholesale reform of the state's Medicaid pediatric dental benefits and reset the standard for beginning children's regular dental care at age 1 rather than age 3. The resulting consent decree providing low-income children with critically important dental care and related services is valued at well over $10 million per year. The children who have benefited from these increased dental services have something to smile about, especially those first children who receive them now unbelievably entering the workforce. Kudos to New Hampshire Legal Aid for this advocacy work on behalf of children. We also applaud New Hampshire Legal Aid Litigation Director Kate Drought, who received the New Hampshire Bar Association's 2020 Award for outstanding service in public sector public interest for her advocacy, which included leading the effort to increase Medicaid reimbursement rates for dental care. That legal aid also helps prevent homelessness is evidenced by the hundreds of people who have sought help during the current economic crisis. We had hoped to bring you a story from one such client this morning, Crystal, a young woman who lost her job due to the COVID-19 crisis and was threatened with illegal eviction in the early months of pregnancy. The Legal Advice and Referral Center helped her when she needed it most. Unfortunately, health concerns have prevented Crystal from joining us. Instead, I'd like to introduce Marissa, a young mom in the North Country who graciously agreed to share her story with us. She turned to legal aid when she was alone, scared, and trying to escape an abusive relationship in a small town. Please join me in welcoming Marissa.
Hi, my name is Marissa Preston, and I wanted to thank you all for attending the fundraiser for New Hampshire Legal Aid. I just am having a hard time talking about this right now. It was 3 years ago that I went through my ordeal in New Hampshire Legal Aid, helped me, and I wanted to read you a letter I wrote to them. My story is not unique. In fact, 1 in 3 women in New Hampshire experience domestic violence, and those are only reported instances. A little background. My ex-boyfriend was also my boss. I did the administration as well as design work for his construction company. He mentally, financially, and physically abused me for many years, isolating me from friends, family, and demanding I give my all to him and his company. When my abuser beat me, then threatened me and stalked my children, I finally went to the authorities. They were able to direct me to Voices Against Violence, who were then able to secure the services of New Hampshire Legal Aid. Ruth, my lawyer, got me a 1,000-foot restraining order, as well as restitution for damages to my property and compensation pay for my lack of employment. It's odd talking about this years after the final incident. It is hard to remember the shadow of a woman I had become under his rule of terror. It's hard to remember that I had no one to turn to for help. Today, I'm a successful contractor with a business of my own. Last fall, I completed my first major renovation project at Waterville Valley Ski Resort. We finished the remodel of the base lodge. 2 years ago, I had worked in a construction as well under the rule of my abusive ex-boyfriend. He told me I was nothing, that I was unimportant and my design work meant nothing without him. I believed him, but today I write to you a successful businesswoman whose design and work will be used and hopefully enjoyed by all. But what does New Hampshire Legal Aid have to do with that? I can tell you that I would not be in the position I am without their help. As someone who felt helpless and alone, I would have just gone the easy route and disappeared, taken my children and left the state. The support New Hampshire Legal Aid gave me to get a restraining order was just the first step in taking back my life. I won't lie and say there was no fear after I was granted the order, but at least I knew that someone was behind me, able to stand for me when I was weak. They fought a legal battle for me in court I didn't have the money for. I think there's prejudice in our communities that state aid is only for drug users or low-income people, but that's not the case. I'm a college-educated middle-class woman with 3 children of my own, and that was before he trapped me into a cage. I believed his lies, believed I was nothing without him, believed I was alone in this state. It can take only one sly smile, one manipulated relationship to knock you down the ladder of life, and it's impossible to climb back up on your own. The state offered me several services free of charge, and within less than 2 years, not only am I back to my old self, I've also managed to contribute to the economy by setting up my own business and hopefully aiding tourism in New Hampshire by completing the awaited remodel at Waterville Valley Base Lodge. With the services that New Hampshire Legal Aid provides, I believe you can help the rest of the 33% of the women in this state, beat down by the men they love, who are full of competency and experience, hoping to become more than the ghost to which their abuser reduced them. We want to be valuable members of society. Sometimes we just need a little support. My abuser used to say when he beat me that he beat me to put fear in me. When he strangled me, he told me it was because he was trying to stop the words coming out of my mouth. My perspective on that, years out, is that he was the one who was afraid. He was afraid of what might happen if a fearless, outspoken, opinionated female ran his company, ran our lives, and ran the world. And if that isn't a story for our times, I don't know what is. So please, think about giving to New Hampshire Legal Aid and supporting the women of New Hampshire and all New Hampshire residents who might be in a situation they can't get out of on their own. With COVID, there's plenty more of us. It's silent now, but it's coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom Raffio, and thank you, Marissa, for sharing your story with us. Your determination to protect your family, to rebuild your life, and build back something new and stronger is truly an inspiration to us all, and it's why we're here. Well, As you can see, we've inspired incredible generosity from supporters around the state already. So it's now time to pause and recognize the work and contributions of our 2020 Tobin Award recipient, Judge Susan Carbon. And I'm pleased to present the award, Bobby Hans Marconi, Associate Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court.
Thank you, Ovid. The John E. Tobin Justice Award was created in 2016 and given that first year to John Broderick, retired Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court, a former president of the Bar Association, a lawyer held in high esteem around the state, and the first chairman of this Campaign for Legal Services. The foundational language of the award requires that it be given to honor those individuals and organizations that have, through concrete actions and/or inspired advocacy, increased access to justice for vulnerable and disenfranchised people. I am honored to present it today to Judge Susan Carbon. Judge Carbon and Justice Broderick have been linked before as authors of a report on professionalism in the bar in 1990. Writing to the Bar News about the results of a survey of the public perception of lawyers, they noted that when looking for an attorney, the public seeks out those believed to be knowledgeable and genuinely interested in handling their case. Most of all, they want someone honest and with a good reputation, and one who will handle their case efficiently and vigorously. The public could hardly find a better representation of this ideal lawyer than now Judge Susan Carbon. Her biography is awe-inspiring in its breadth. She has served on commissions locally, nationally, and internationally. She has written academically acclaimed articles and books about how the law may be best used to protect the people who need protection most. I don't know how she finds the time to do all she does, and all the while continues to do the daily work of serving the people of New Hampshire. I understand that when the campaign nominated Judge Carbon for this award to the overlapping boards of directors for New Hampshire Legal Assistance and LARC, the attorneys around the room nodded and spoke in enthusiastic, unanimous agreement. Because LARC receives federal funding from the Legal Services Corporation, some seats on the board are reserved for members of the client-eligible population. One of these members spoke about this nomination from a unique perspective. She had appeared before Judge Carbon not as an attorney, but as a litigant. And though it was years ago, she remembered it clearly. And she spoke about something not captured in Judge Carbon's lengthy biography, her humanity. This judge listened, she said. This judge heard me, and this judge made sure I understood and made sure I was heard. Exemplified by the long list of books and articles, boards and commissions, Judge Carbon's work has been in service to the idea that people, most of all women and children who have been victimized by abusers, should be heard so that justice may be served. Knowledgeable, honest, of good repute, efficient, and a vigorous advocate. I am honored to present the 2020 John E. Tobin Justice Award to Judge Susan Carbon.
Thank you so much, Judge Hance. That's so kind of you, and I am deeply honored. A few months ago, I received an email from Ovid on behalf of the campaign. I automatically assumed it was a solicitation for support, so when I read it, announcing that I was being given an award, I thought it had to be a mistake. Sort of like the Academy Awards a few years ago, where the announcers opened the envelope and read the wrong winner. So I called Sarah, but sure enough, she said, "This is for real." And then the sobering, humbling depth of this award hit me like a brick. To say I am honored is a gross understatement. Receiving any award named for John Tobin is intimidating on a good day. John's contributions to social justice and the citizens of New Hampshire are legendary. And then considering the award's recent recipients, Gordon MacDonald, who has provided exemplary leadership not only as the past chair of the campaign, but in his entire legal career. And John Broderick, who will always be chief to me. He is an icon in the legal community, a professional and personal hero of mine, and countless others whose lives he has impacted in the most profound of ways. I don't deserve to be in this camp, but I will try my level best to someday meet their benchmark. As judges, we hold positions of immense power and privilege. I am abundantly aware that each decision we make carries consequences, that each encounter with the public can either be positive and welcoming and compassionate, or chilling, distant, and disinterested. We can open our courthouse doors and become places of refuge where justice can be found, or we can be frightening institutions of last resort. I'm also aware that in addition to the privilege I hold as a judge, I am white. And that very whiteness carries privilege. Even in a state where our demographics are demonstrably less diverse than many others, our challenges are no less significant or daunting. Our duty to the public, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, religion, economic or immigration status, remains the same. Everyone deserves the best we have to offer. Every day, here and across the country, thousands of individuals are victimized by violence. I've had women show up at the clerk's office with chunks of their hair that have been pulled out of their head. Women who have lost babies from miscarriages as a result of kicks to their abdomen. Women who present with black eyes, broken teeth, broken noses, cracked ribs, cigarette burns. Women who have been raped by every object imaginable. Family pets tortured in retaliation for challenging the abuser's authority. The numbers remain staggering. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are victims of severe physical violence each year. That's 10 million women and men each year. 1 in 5 women will be raped in her lifetime. Each day, on average, 3 women die at the hands of an intimate partner, most by firearms. Some will seek our help, others won't. And why, we wonder? Do they not trust us? Do they think they can't afford us? We have to ask ourselves these questions each time another act of violence occurs, each time another death occurs. With the complexities compounded by COVID, the number of people seeking legal assistance has skyrocketed and exceeds our collective ability to serve them. This should not be happening. So many, those not as privileged as us, have lost jobs. 1 in 8 families do not have enough food to eat. Many have lost housing, medical insurance, marriages, children, their dignity and confidence. Think Maslow's hierarchy: food, clothing, shelter. Legal fees are practically unthinkable, and yet legal assistance is so fundamental to their survival, to our collective welfare. This is not about you or me. This is about us in this together. It doesn't matter who we are, where we live, what our politics are. This matters because it is about us all. So as different as Ovid and I may be, except that we're both getting old, we share this common goal, this common vision that everyone deserves the best we have to offer. We're not there yet. I'm reminded of Muhammad Ali's quote, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. The bigger your room, the more your rent. The more privilege you hold, the more service you owe." We are all in this legal community privileged. Let's make sure we pay our rent. Thank you again to the campaign for this incredible honor. I am so deeply humbled. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Judge Carbon, and thank you for the example you set for all of us. And those remarks were very touching and appropriate. And notwithstanding our age, you're correct, and our differences, we have a lot in common with this campaign. Our keynote address today comes to you live from another esteemed member of the bench. When now Judge Fern Fisher applied for the New York bar, she had to list every place she ever lived, and the list filled 2 pages. Growing up, Her mother moved the family frequently, pushed by poverty and evictions and attempts to escape an abusive relationship. That multi-page application to the bar was the beginning of a 41-year career. First as a housing advocate at Harlem Legal Services, she later provided free legal services to Harlem-based community organizations as a member of the National Conference of Black Lawyers, and prosecuted fraudulent charities as an assistant attorney general for the state of New York. Judge Fisher served in both the city and matrimonial parts of New York Supreme Court, and Judge Fisher finished her almost 29-year judicial career as the deputy chief judge of all the New York City trial courts and the director of the New York statewide Access to Justice program. Amazing. Since 2017, she has worked on special projects for social justice at the Maurice A. Dean School of Law at Hofstra University. Judge Fisher, thank you for joining us live this morning. I wish I could say welcome to the Granite State of New Hampshire and shake your hand in person. But we are very grateful for your time today, and we look forward to hearing your reflections on the state of civil justice in our country and as it might impact New Hampshire. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I have yet to visit the great state of New Hampshire, but I thank you for the virtual opportunity this morning and a reason to get my hair done and put on makeup since March. But seriously, let me first congratulate Judge Cardin for her vision and her accomplishments. And I have to say, I should have spoken before her because it's going to be hard to top her speech. And I hope at some point I get a chance to meet her. So we're living during extremely difficult times. It's a perfect storm of the consequences of COVID and the fervent demands of brown and Black people for equality and social justice. Mahatma Gandhi said, "A nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members." This nation is being tested. We are at crossroads. What we do now will determine how we will be measured in the future. So when I think of democracy, I think of a triangle. I think of the legislature and the executive being the sides, and the base of the triangle being the justice system, the judiciary and the actors in the justice system. And I know that this morning I am preaching to the choir, that all of you listening today are already committed and you're already doing a yeoman's job. But let's look at the statistics. There's a 7.6% poverty rate in New Hampshire, which means there are over 100,000 people living in poverty, and that's the 2019 statistics. We know that the statistics in 2020 are going to be much worse because of the COVID crisis and the consequences of the COVID crisis. So the poverty level is going to rise. In 2019, NHLA and LARC served 15,083 individuals, a phenomenal job. But we're going to have to serve more people. So I say to that community, and that community includes the judges, that we have to work just a little harder, but more importantly, we have to work a whole lot wiser. I think we have to reach beyond the boxes of our minds of how the legal system should look and think about how the legal system certainly does not work for the masses. And so there are a number of things that we can do that don't necessarily take money, but it takes the heart to make the change. It takes the vision to make the change. And I hope that into the future, Some of the things that I intend to throw out this morning will be considered in New Hampshire, if not considered, put into actual operation. There is a breakfast afterwards, I think, or a lunch at 12 o'clock, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions about some of the things I'm talking about, and to talk about more specifically what can be done. But let me start off with saying nothing is going to change without partnerships. And those partnerships have to reach beyond our normal boundaries. And so, yes, the judiciary and legal aid and legal services have worked together. I say to you, you have to be completely in sync. I know that law firms are participating. You have to do more. But look outside of the normal boundaries. Have you reached out to your schools of social work? Because clearly, individuals in poverty have social services needs, and legal issues are intertwined with social services issues. Have you reached out to human services programs, pre-law programs, the retired community? When people are retiring at early ages, they're looking for things to do. Have you looked at the community colleges to see what they can do in terms of being a resource? And when you say, well, what could a retired person do? What could somebody in a community college do? Well, let's talk about the program that some of the states are putting into effect, and that would be the Navigator program. And think of the term Navigator. What does a Navigator do? Well, a Navigator in the court system helps people through the court process, to tell them how to fill out forms, to take them to the right courtroom, to get them to the right social services programs that will help them from being evicted, or accompanying them to get a order of protection because they're too afraid. And yes, so when you look at the things that people need in addition to legal aid and legal services lawyers, we can look to social work programs. We can look to human services programs and pre-law programs. And if you look at the Navigator program in Colorado and in New York, the use of non-attorneys to close the civil justice gap is working. And you're going to say, well, we don't have the money. It doesn't take much money. It takes working together. One of the problems with our legal system as it exists, and it's going to be more apparent as more and more people flood the court system, is that our court system is too complex for the average person. It's too complex for someone without an attorney. It's too complex even for legal aid, legal services attorneys who have a certain amount of time to devote to cases before they actually have to go on to another case. So if we look at simplifying the court system, it will meet the needs not only of people who are unrepresented, and note that I do not use the word pro se or self-represented. I say unrepresented. Because pro se, no one knows what that means. And self-represented seems to indicate that people are in courts without a lawyer voluntarily, or they're at the same level as an attorney because they are representing themselves. So I prefer the term unrepresented. It is exactly what is the case when someone comes to court without a lawyer. So if we simplified processes, it will make it easier for people who don't have lawyers, but it will also make it easier for lawyers. We need to look at doing everything in plain language. All right, so, a friend of mine is a law professor, and she always says to me, plain language means you're dumbing down the law, and she's not in favor of plain language. But if we look at statistics and we see that the majority of people in the United States read on the 5th to 7th grade level and more closer to the 5th grade level, our forms, our decisions, our procedures are way above the reading level of the majority of individuals who will interface with the court system into the near future. That does not take money. It takes putting your nose to the wheel. It takes committees to work on the forms, but it doesn't take money to do that. In the end, it comes down to also judges. And we all wish that we had more judges like Judge Cardin. More judges like Judge Cardin who have heart will make a difference in how people experience the court system, will increase the trust and confidence in the court system, but will also make the system more fair. You know, the old vision of a judge being a referee, sitting back and calling the balls and strikes, just doesn't make sense. The old court system, where we don't explain the rules and procedures of the court, doesn't make sense in these times. Never made sense, but it definitely doesn't make sense now. You know, when you sit down to play a game of chess, you know the rules. When you play tennis, you have a racket and a ball. But we expect individuals to come into our court systems without the rules, and we don't even give them a ball. So they're going to lose before they even put their foot in the door. So judges need to think about changing their role towards being neutral and always neutral, but engaged. And what does that mean? It means maybe starting off a case with explaining what the plaintiff has to prove, what the defendant has to prove. What's wrong with that? It's no secret. Lawyers know what the plaintiff has to prove and the defendants have to prove. And I have to say that sometimes lawyers need a little help too. Why are we going to make it difficult for people to get important evidence into the record? If you are not trained in the law, you have no idea what the foundation is to get a picture of a falling roof into evidence. Why not ask the foundation questions? Why not make sure that all of our decisions are written in plain language so people know whether they've won or lost, and they know what they have to do in order to comply with the judge's orders, perhaps? Are we bringing in the kind of resources to the court that litigants have, and that litigants need? In New York, we made space for legal aid and legal services to have offices in the courthouse so people could have easy access to a lawyer. But we also gave access, meaning gave offices to social work programs, consumer credit counseling programs for people who have consumer debt, to adult protective services. So that's the agency that protects senior citizens and people with mental illnesses. They actually had offices in the court. For some people, just getting to the court is difficult enough. But to have to go elsewhere for services was daunting and almost impossible. Most important, we put the Department of Social Services, the place where you go to apply for public assistance and rent grants, in the courthouse. So people could merely go from the clerk's office or the courtroom downstairs or upstairs, depending on where they were located, to get the assistance that they need. That does not necessarily require money. It requires rethinking your space, or maybe putting a Winnebago in the parking lot, which we've done as well. We also found that a mobile van that went into communities that were most in crisis also made a difference. It helped domestic violence victims who sometimes are afraid to leave their houses for long periods of time because their abusers are keeping track of their time. They could run out for a few minutes and come to the van and get the temporary order of support remotely. It was good for senior citizens who, aren't as mobile as other people, so they didn't have that to go too far. They could see somebody at the mobile van right in front of a senior citizen center where they went for lunch. It was also good for immigrant communities who were very reluctant to leave their insular communities to come to the court for, or go to a legal aid office for help. During the Sandy crisis, we were able to bring that mobile van right to the site of the destruction of the storm. So in other words, right up to the ocean communities which were destroyed the most. And you're going to say, well, how did the court do that? Partnership. It was in partnership with a not-for-profit legal services program called NILAG, who worked with us to make that happen. And that van was funded by a foundation. NILAG applied for the grant and obtained the grant. We did all of the work to do the design of the van and to make sure that the van was appropriately furnished and so forth and so on. And most importantly, we gave them a parking space at night to put the vans, because where else in New York City, excuse me, it is early in the morning and I have yet to have coffee. There's no place to park a big van in the city of New York. And so therefore, there was a permanent parking space for this van. And that van is still in existence and provides very, very valuable assistance to people who don't want to leave their communities. Let me just take just the liberty of telling a personal story. I mean, you heard a little bit about my background in my bio. Yes, my mother was a domestic violence victim from my age of 12 until I graduated from law school, where she finally broke away. But the day that I graduated from Harvard Law School, after graduation was over and we were packing the van to go home, my mother told me for the first time that our home in Long Island, where I spent my high school years, college years, and law school years living when I wasn't in school, had been foreclosed on. And so we were not returning to the home in Long Island. We were returning to an apartment that she was now living in Queens. Back then I wondered, well, you have a daughter at Harvard Law School. Why didn't you just tell me? I would have fixed it. But then I realized how hard it is for a parent to tell a child, and even though I was in my 20s at the time, I'm still the child, that she had failed, that she had lost our home, that many of my possessions were gone because they were, removed from the house, and that she wanted me to graduate from law school without the stress of her problems being on my shoulders. And she did not know where else to go. And so the lack of helping hands resulted in my mother losing my home. And I don't know if my mother quite recovered from that, because thereafter she ended up living with me. And, you lose a little bit of your pride and a little bit of your independence when you have to go and live with your daughter. And there are thousands of people in New Hampshire that need a helping hand, and thousands more will need helping hands in the future as this pandemic continues and the consequences of the pandemic increase. More domestic violence, more consumer debt, more evictions, more foreclosures. We need helping hands. So Martin Luther King said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I think if you spoke to him today, he would tell you, yes, it bends towards justice, but only if there are hands making it bend. Otherwise, it starts to bend the other way. And so we need many more helping hands. And yes, we need legal services attorneys. They are, in my opinion, heroes for what they do. It is not easy to be a legal aid, legal services attorney. You deal with the hardest cases. You make a very little bit of money. Lots and lots of time is taken away from your family when you're a legal services attorney. And yes, they are extremely important. And I am a big advocate of more funding from government for civil legal services through either the Legal Services Corporation or state legislatures or local entities. But we need more than just legal services attorneys on that arc. We need thousands of helping hands pushing the arc towards justice. We need you in the fight. So we need you to give time, to make it a little easier for legal aid and legal services attorneys to do their job. It could be just doing intake. It could be doing just, attorney for the day programs. It could be operating a telephone hotline. I need you in the fight. I need you to watch one less sports show, one less reality show, engage in one less chess game or bowling game, pick up the phone and volunteer to either one of these fantastic programs that New Hampshire has. But in the end, I have to talk to you about money. Because without your financial support, legal services can't do more. So we're asking you to dig deep. I want to hear all those text messages coming in. Whatever you donated last year, increase it to an amount that you can afford, but increase it. We need you to continue to provide financial support for legal services in New Hampshire. We need you to be part of the change. We can't afford to be passive. We can't afford to turn ahead. If we do, our society will be measured and judged harshly in the future. We are hearing the cries of Mayday, Mayday, Mayday in New Hampshire. All hands on deck. I want to thank you for listening to me this morning, and I'd be more than happy to talk to all of you during the lunch hour.
Judge Fisher, wonderful remarks, so practical, so inspiring, and so based in your own life experience and professional experience. I can't thank you enough on behalf of all of us here in New Hampshire who are working to advance the cause of access to justice and equal justice for all. And I want you to know on behalf of the entire state of New Hampshire, there is an open door and an open invitation. We need you to come and be with us in person once we get past this craziness called COVID. And by the way, I'm Ovid, not COVID, so no confusion there. And we will be happy to welcome you with open arms. Thank you so much for your testimony this morning.
Thank you.
And if you were inspired by Judge Fisher's remarks and fired up to learn about these issues and want to talk with her personally, we have scheduled a Zoom call with her, hosted and moderated by New Hampshire's own Tina Nato, Chief Judge of the State Superior Courts, for a limited number of guests at noon today. Visit the campaign's website at nh-cls.org to upgrade your registration to VIP, to receive the link to the Zoom call, and you'll be able to ask questions and engage interactively with her. Again, that is at noon today on Zoom with Judge Fisher and Chief Judge Tina Nato. For tickets, visit www.nh-cls.org. And now let's take a final glimpse at our live text pledge. We're progressing up the line, and we really appreciate what you've done this morning. It's amazing to do it this way and to have this kind of support so far. I want you to know that the thermometer will continue to be live at least in terms of filling up. You can continue to make the text pledges after our program concludes in a couple minutes. And if you receive a link to this broadcast, if you can send it to your friends and your colleagues so they can watch it and learn how to make a pledge so that we make sure we can maximize every dollar that's been that has been actually contributed for the matching pledge. This has been a year like no other, but you've proven that you are here to ensure legal aid can continue protecting our most vulnerable neighbors. I want to thank in a special way Sarah Palermo, who's our executive director. She does a fantastic job. Those of you who know her know that she is committed to the cause, and she's excellent and a pro, especially in these challenging times. And if you like this program and would like to take advantage of the studio and the opportunity, the real wonderful support that we've received this morning, we're at Event United. And Events United is in Derry, New Hampshire, in the Studio Lab building at 11 A Street in Derry, the former WNDS studios. And so I'm sure they would be happy to help you and your organization, your firm, to be able to put something together like we've enjoyed here today. And finally, thank you to the Campaign Kickoff Breakfast Committee and the Campaign for Legal Services Council, along with the board members for LARC and NHLA. I told you we'd be done at 8:59. By 9 o'clock, it's 8:59. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and please continue to support legal aid in New Hampshire.